I'm Michael Wayne, reporting for Stone Lake Elementary from Locke, CA, a unique rural Chinese community in the U.S. I am now standing in the main street of Locke, looking at statue of Confucius, a famous Chinese ancient philosopher, and Dr. Sun Zhongshan, whose universal idea of the world's community is shared by all, influenced the process of Chinese history. If you are looking for a road trip this weekend, well, the town of Locke is much like it was 100 years ago. So take a trip down to Memory Lane. It is a really fun place to visit. It's just a short drive away, but it's rich with the history of how the Chinese built the California, which we know today. It's the last rural Chinatown left in the USA. A 3-block long main street with the rickety wooden field of history, a history of the Chinese who came here in the 1860s to literally build California. In the 1920s, Locke was bustling. Stores, hotels, bordellos, and gambling. It was called California's Mount Carlo. Thousands of Chinese lived in and around Locke. There was plenty of work available and fun to be had. The Day-Long Museum picks the gambling that was going on mostly out of towners coming to Locke. It was an era that almost didn't happen. Years later, there's been racist pushback about the Chinese being in America. Not here. In the 1860s, the Chinese came to work at less than $1 a day, toiling in the swamp wads. The Chinese had the world's most advanced irrigation techniques, which they used to build the area's levees. It was backbreaking. Once the levees was built, farming boomed. The area exploded with vegetables and fruits. Credit the Chinese for that too. As Locke moved on in the 1940s and 50s, town residents transitioned to become merchants and farmers. Life was good. Now the town is about tours and history. The legend of Locke is still alive. There is a past that reminds us that Chinese labor helped build much of what we enjoy today. My first visit to Locke took place when I was a first grader. At that time, I didn't feel special though. I loved it because it was fun. As time went on, I met several people who live here. Their stories are interesting and amazing. They all have different background. Their lifestyle are different, but there is one thing in common. They all love Locke. It was here I found my music teacher and my art teacher. Every week, I come here to study music and learn how to draw paintings. Slowly, I become attached to it. There is no better way to introduce a town than to talk to people who live there.
Make-believe amusement park. This is real. You come in here, you can feel the past.
Is provided sanctuary to the Chinese, because in the 1870s there was the thing called the driving out of the Chinese, right? And so, but the Delta was unique. The farmers, the landowners here encouraged the Chinese to stay here.
Because it's the land, not other people coming here very often. Most of the tourists come here, they want to see what's the heritage of the Chinese influence. So pear orchard is the evidence of the Chinese labor here after gold rush time. Do you know gold rush is about 150 years ago? They built a railroad, Continental Pacific Railroad. Build a railroad and then transportation become a lot easier. So they take the gold from the mountain all the way to Eureka and then come to here and go to San Francisco. So a lot of families, they just live here for agriculture. They no longer do gold anymore because once you start pioneer, a lot of heavy-duty trucks and cargoes and machine already can do the job Chinese start. But when Chinese doing that in the beginning, nobody go to the mountain before, so they have to explode it, the mountain, in order to make a road. So when all the rocks falling down, about 1,200 Chinese people dead.
1,200?
Yeah. To make this Pacific Railroad. So the U.S. rich, a lot to do with the Chinese immigrants as a laborers. They come here as not as a slave. Do you know the difference between labor and a slave?
Slave is forcing and labor is...
Slave is by punishment you must do, otherwise you'll be in jail. Labor is exchanging your sweat, your muscle, your job to earn the wages, and part of the wages sent back to China because they have family in China. Okay, that's the difference.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Locke is a California historic state park. Why did you come here to...
Well, I come here is because somebody told me I should find the roots, the Chinese roots. Because this village used to be over 2,000 Chinese residents live here. So when the time goes on, most young generation of the Chinese, they left the town, and the older generation, they die here. And most of the Chinese, they don't come back because there's no job opportunities besides doing pear. So the pear work right now is all the Mexican took over. Chinese cannot work that hard anymore. So the honor should honor the Mexican workers. So through the orchard, and I realized every farm put a lot of sweat and idea, energy into it. And the older tree is already over 100 years old. They are still blossom, still produce the violet pears. So 60 to 70% of the pear in the United States are from this area. So I try to capture the agricultural impression. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am doing my Discover California project for my historic sites, and I will be interviewing my piano teacher, Stuart Walthall, today. So, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What attracted you to come to this town, Locke?
Well, in the beginning, I was an artist, and I did a lot of painting and sketching. This is in the early 1970s, and I used to drive all over the Sacramento River Delta, and I would stop and paint, and I would meet people, and eventually I ended up here in Locke, and I thought it was a very picturesque place. And the second or third time I came here to Locke, I met a wonderful woman named Connie King, who's kind of like a legendary mother and mayor of Locke. And she was working in the River Road Art Gallery on Main Street. And we became friends, and I eventually joined the gallery, but through our friendship I got to meet a number of the other Chinese people that used to live here. Way back then, there was lots of Chinese people who lived here in town, and they had gardens in the back. And I eventually moved right here to this house that you get your lessons in. There was an old woman named Jean Leon who lived here. In this front room where our lessons take place, and I lived in the back of the house in a little apartment, and I kind of took care of her. And we became very good friends, and eventually she passed away and I did buy the house, but I was fascinated with the history and the culture and the beauty of Locke. Yeah.
Thank you. So, I have another question. What inspired you to play piano? Because you said you were painting.
Well, eventually I started singing in a group. So the first music I made was as a singer, and it made sense to learn an instrument. So the first instrument I learned was guitar. My brother was a guitar teacher, and my twin sister was a piano teacher, so I was around a lot of music. And after I studied guitar for a while, I fell in love with the piano, and I bought a whole crummy piano, sat down, and learned how to play. So then I started teaching it because I had already been teaching guitar. Now I teach little guys like you. Welcome.
This is Locke in California. It is my favorite place, and I like the people there too. Thank you for watching. Reported by Michael.